Hi, I'm Neil Armstrong from MediQuest, and I'm here to have a little chat with you about the UK's medical device regulation in this rather strange season of resignations within the UK government. So let's have a look a little bit at the political chronology of the last few weeks. I guess for me it starts about 2 weeks ago when a chap called Jeremy Hunt publishes a book. Jeremy who, I hear you ask? Well, Hunt has been our longest serving, or the UK's longest serving, health secretary this century. But actually more than that, he's also a former prime ministerial contender. Aha! Could this have been a start of a race, start of events looking to replace a prime minister? I hear you ask. And isn't hindsight a wonderful thing? We all do a lot better with hindsight. I do, certainly. Well, anyway, there had been announced about Christmas time a 6-month moratorium on replacing EU regulations with new post-Brexit regulations in the UK. And as that was announced at the end of December, that came to the end, about a week ago. And very quickly, after that 6-month moratorium ended, Sajid Javid, the then Health Secretary for the UK, managed to sign the consultation report, which moved the step on towards the UK's new medical device regulation, the next stage of the government process. And strangely enough, just after that weekend, the first thing Sajid Javid did, together with Rishi Sunak, the UK's finance minister, was to resign. So we're perhaps left having to ask ourselves, was this a one good deed before I go type of manoeuvre, or was this a political time bomb being planted by Javid, just in case he didn't come back as Prime Minister, waiting to see if it explodes somebody else? Is that a picture of a time bomb I see ticking away in the corner there? Well, then of course, after we've had a flurry of minor political appointees, actually more than I thought any country has a right to have, let alone one the size of the UK, resigning, we finally saw the end of Boris Johnson today. So that's the political side of the story. Let's have a look at the medical device side. Well, from the medical device point of view, Jeremy Hunt's book was called Zero. And zero is about zero unnecessary deaths in the UK's health service and how that could be achieved. And one of the things Hunt cites in his book, and we'll come back to talk a lot more about his book later, I assure you, is the fact that it's the blame culture which hinders safety in all sorts of situations. Hunt talks a lot about how we need to learn from the aviation industry, about how you have to be able to tell the captain of an aircraft he's made a mistake or he's done something wrong, not go, I'm a junior officer, and sit there in awe of him. And similarly, it's the same in industry. It's about not having a blame culture. It's about being able to accept we all make mistakes from time to time, and it's helpful and good to do so in an open atmosphere where other people can point them out and we can quickly rectify them before we get stuck on a path that's going to lead us to an unfortunate outcome. Talk more about Hunt's book, but it's really, really significant because it's good. Okay, Jacob Rees-Mogg, our Minister for Brexit Opportunities for the last 6 months. Well, he didn't seem to find any Brexit opportunities, but the moment that he pressed that press that pause button to end the pause on the moratorium, very quickly the MHRA rushed out their response on the consultation report, and Sajid Javid signed that into law. And that consultation report is basically saying we've cut and pasted stuff from the European MDR, and this is what we think we ought to do. Now, I'm not suggesting it's word for word, but it certainly wouldn't get past any GCSE plagiarism software. I mean, it's just the MDR being pasted into UK law. So, kind of interesting that after this resignation season, where arguably the only thing the UK can really claim is that Boris Johnson as government managed to get Brexit done, we seem to be heading for an era where we're going to be accepting EU regulations. And so why on earth did we get Brexit done? The Minister for Finding Opportunities couldn't find any in the 6 months we were on hold, and now we've just accepted European regulation. The trouble is, it's not going to buy us entry to the common market, the free market. We're still going to be left out on our own. So let's just explore the difference in the two regulations for a minute. What we have in the UK at the moment, and what Europe had up until a couple of years ago, was a thing called the Medical Device Directive. I'll put some of the basic principles that I see from that in the blue box on the left. It seemed to be about cooperation between regulators, notified bodies and industry, people all trying to work together to make better products that were safer, get them on the market quickly, about innovation, about helping good innovation, about making things better for the patient. And the way it did this was it said that, you know, there are some fundamental principles. A lot of them we call essential requirements, things that every medical device should do. Do more good than harm to the patient. Very nebulous things that you had to think carefully about. But industry's used to thinking carefully about things when it's introducing new technology and when it's dealing with innovation. Now we've got a new medical device regulation in Europe, and that's the box in green. And the problem with the box in green is, well, there's 5 times as much of it. And now there seems to be 5 times as much in every guidance document on it as there was in the regulation, because it's so utterly incomprehensible. But it's all about enforcement and playing the blame game, rather than starting from the attitude that we're all in this together, we're trying to make better medical devices. It seems to be starting from the attitude industry is fundamentally evil and only concerned with making money. It's about playing the blame game, about finding who we can blame and who we can possibly sue in court and who we can litigate against and who we can claim money from. And it goes into copious detail. As I said, it's 5 times as long, it's 5 times as detailed as the old directive was. And so by going into that amount of detail, it's not something that you can just look at by analogy. It's something that you've got to slavishly follow to the letter of the law. It's a bonanza for the lawyers and a nightmare for the engineers who are trying to do anything involving innovation. And so as a result, you won't get innovation in medical devices in Europe. I've already seen this in Europe over the last 2 years, that more and more of our customers are saying we want to go to the market first in the US because we can innovate there. They understand innovation, not like Europe. And now the UK seem to be wanting to copy that to suddenly find a Brexit disadvantage. Seems very strange to me. Anyway, let's go back to Hunt's book for a moment. Say it's called Zero, Eliminating Unnecessary Deaths in a Post-Pandemic NHS. It's by Swift Press. It's out this year. Giving you the ISBN and EISBN numbers for it. I have to be honest, I do thoroughly recommend it. My copy's on the Kindle because I found it really useful to highlight it there, but other e-readers and other book sources are available. But come on, let's be fair. I know most people get their books if they buy them at all from Amazon these days. Okay, so part of the thing is, why wouldn't you tell the truth when something goes wrong? Hunt's argument is it's probably fear. It's loss of your reputation, your income, your job, your self-esteem, loss of the reputation of your colleagues, your company, your industry, even your profession. If you feel it's unacceptable for you to make a mistake, then you can never admit doing anything wrong. But the truth is, accidents happen. And there isn't necessarily or even usually any person to blame. It's not what the accident ambulance chasing lawyers would want you to believe, but usually accidents happen when good people are trying to do the right thing, but just through circumstances, through the way things combine, through the way things happen, it goes wrong. No one's omnipotent. Nobody knows everything that's going to happen in the future. And it's just creating an atmosphere where people feel they can explain rather than trying to cover up. And Hunt goes on to explain how this made a fantastic difference in the aviation industry. So I come back again to this aviation industry. In figure 5 in his book, there's a really powerful graph that shows over the last 50 years, although the number of passengers have gone up exponentially to 9 times what they were in the early 70s, the number of deaths has gone down very dramatically in just the same time. So what have we actually got if we look at this medical device consultation report that was published? What's staying like the MDD? Well, that's the blue box and it looks a bit empty. And there are some new things which are particular to the UK and no one else seems to have at the moment. A pre-approval process for innovative medical devices, alternative conformity assessment routes to help with shortages, and I guess with Brexit we're going to know more and more about shortages, and economic operators are supposed to be able to predict future shortages and tell the government about them. I'm not quite sure why, if the government doesn't have foresight, it suddenly thinks other economic operators, other people in the supply chain are going to have the benefit of foresight as well. Maybe people in industry are just supposed to be omnipotent. I don't know. Anyway, what's going to be like the MDR? Well, an awful lot of things. We seem to have copied and pasted most of the European NDR in terms of classification, conformity assessment, the fact that we're now going to have medical devices which don't have a medical purpose. Interesting one there. The post-market surveillance scheme, the amount of clinical oversight is going to increase just like it has in Europe, and the amount of unnecessary clinical trials is going to increase. I just want to go off piste a little bit here just to explain. Look, people talk about needing clinical data for everything. Come on, clinical data, having to conduct clinical trials for any engineer is really the last hiding place of the charlatan. If you can't prove it in the lab, don't start cutting me open or experimenting on me to prove it. You should be able to prove it in the lab. And it's the absolute last resort to experiment on animals or human beings. We don't treat animals this way. Why are we suggesting that we should have a more lenient regime on clinical trials on human beings than we have on animals? It's not right experimenting unnecessarily. If you can make a safe device, you should be able to prove it's safe and it performs in the lab without doing further clinical work. If you can't, it shouldn't be used. Okay, that's my little sidebar. So let's get back to it. Registration of economic operators. These are people like distributors, the intermediaries who supply medical devices to the NHS, importers, in-country agents. So this is a lot more information. This is really an information grab. We know the European Union like getting information and building big databases. It seems we're going to be doing just the same in the UK. Sort of duplication, really. Can't see this is a Brexit advantage. Doing the same as Europe, only having to do it all ourselves. Strange sort of advantage. The in-country agent is going to be liable, and this is something new. Implant safety summaries, again, this is something new that just seemed to be cut and pasted from Europe. And worst of all, the essential requirements of the MDD are going to be replaced by the technology-specific stasis breeding, innovation preventing general safety and performance requirements from the medical device regulation in Europe. What a terrible thing to do. So now I really have to ask you, can any government, let alone a Conservative government, just 18 months after claiming that they've got Brexit done, suddenly say we're going to cut and paste into our own law 2 European regulations that are disproportionately onerous, innovation stunting, and as far as safety is concerned, theoretically flawed? Can we do this soon after Brexit? Is any new Prime Minister, is any new government really going to give the go-ahead for this? I do hope not. I've been Neil Armstrong. I'd like to thank MediQuest both in Waterford, Ireland and Peterborough in the UK for giving us the facilities for this webcast. like to say we'll be back talking more, and there's a lot more that I want to talk about in Hunt's actually really rather good book. But for now, thanks a lot for watching. Catch you again soon. Bye.